120 Kilometer. Dabei geht er schon eine Stunde in diesem Tempo. Schade, dass den Wagen nicht.
Keine Angst. Pass mal auf, was wir jetzt sogar noch für Reserven drin haben.
125, 130, 135. Das ist ja großartig.
Alright, here we are, guys. The end of the road for the build in support of the people of the Ukraine. The ICM Opel Admiral Cabriolet. This has been, for me, a unique build experience. This has been an amazing kit. They're just such a new way of, for me anyway. I don't know how many people out there have a lot of experience with these kits, but for me it's a whole new build experience compared to what I'm used to. If you've been following the build, you've seen what I've been going through with this kit, how different it is in assembling the body out of multiple parts. The chassis had to be assembled from multiple parts. Everything had to be mated together. There are so many places where things all have to be aligned so that they go together perfectly. And the kit, for the most part, is engineered extremely well. It goes together very smoothly. For the most part. There were a few fit issues. If you've been following the build, I've been going over them as I've been building the car, where I had a couple of problems with lining a few things up, putting a few things in the way they wanted, and but they were very minor. For as complex as this kit is, again, I say to me because it's the first time I've ever built something of this type, and I have to say that I enjoyed it. I mean, I loved the actual experience of building this car. And I already have another one, which will be coming up sometime in the near future on the channel. This is a very intense build. There are so many tiny little pieces, so many small details that they've included, which completely blew me away, and I was nowhere near ready to see in a kit like this. But I've got to say that ICM has a very unique way of presenting their kits. They're amazing. That's all that I can say. I really enjoyed this kit more than I have in a very long time of building kits. So I have nothing but good things to say about this entire experience. And for me, the end result is not really as important as the journey and the experience of building one of these things. And this kit really had me doing a bunch of stuff that I've never done before, learning new skills that I had not perfected or even known to do. And it just really took me out of my comfort zone, which is one of the reasons why I recommend this kit, because it really does take you out of your comfort zone and get you to do something completely different. Now, I've built cars in the past. As you watch the channel, you know that the cars are, the majority of my builds are cars. I mean, I'm going to be getting more into sci-fi stuff and a little more, because that's also another one of my favorite genres. But cars are the primary basically subject of this channel. So this brought my how can I put this? This just totally broadened my horizons as far as different types of vehicles to build. I was primarily a muscle car or 80s or sports car builder, and this kit has really opened up my eyes to the appreciation and gotten me to appreciate the artistry of the designs of these pre-war cars. I mean, from the curve of the fenders to the way the bodies just swoop toward the back. I mean, they really are works of art. You know, back then the styling was as important, if not more important, than the actual way the car went together or moved through the air, as is evident by all of the chrome work on this car and the huge grill in the front, and the way the front end is just a prominent, strong fenders, big grill, big chrome bumpers. It's just something that you don't see anymore, and I've come to appreciate more after building this kit. And I found that I really have taken a liking to these pre-war cars, and you'll be seeing more of them on the channel now, because I think that after building this one, I've really got an affinity for them. So now that I've rambled on about how much I like the kit, let's take a good look at the finished product. Here you see it. As I said, this was a build in honor of the people of Ukraine, and because of that, the colors I've chosen are of the Ukrainian flag. So you see a bright yellow with a blue over the body, and that is, as I said, in honor of the people of the Ukraine. Now, I did have some weird I don't even know how to describe it. The paint just reacted weirdly, which I don't really understand why or how this happened. But I painted the entire body at the same time. All the parts are painted together, and yet some came out lighter than the other. And I used the same paint, so I'm not really sure what happened there. The car still looks really good, so I'm not too upset about it. And I'm thinking of doing something to incorporate the lights and the darks into the design of the paint job on the car. I haven't decided to do it yet, but if I do make some changes, you guys will be the first to know. As you can see, all of the chrome work on the body is a combination of bare metal foil and the Hasegawa mirror finish. Now, there are still a couple of places on this car where I have to do some touch-ups and do a little cleaning up on it. But, as I said, for the most part, it really is done. The grill work is really, really nicely done after putting some Tamiya panel line paint. It really brought the grill to life. And then we have the headlight assemblies, which are really nice looking headlight assemblies. The lenses on the headlights are crystal clear. As you're looking at it here, it looks like they don't even have lenses on them, but they're there. You can see the detailing down to the marker lights. I mean, it's just, I just don't have anything bad to say about the actual design of the car. Now, were there a couple of places where they could, a little bit of dust, where they could improve on the engineering of the kit? Yeah, there were a few small places where the kit could be better engineered, and a few places where they could make the instructions a little clearer. But almost every manufacturer has their quirks, so I am not going to hold that against this car. But as you see, they've gotten basically every detail down. After I spray painted it, now the body was spray painted with Tamiya yellow and Tamiya French blue. And that's from a can. And then there were many hours of polishing the body to get the finish as smooth as you see it here. After the painting, it was clear coated with Tamiya clear, which is my go-to clear. I love it. It lays beautifully. It dries fast. It's just a fantastic clear to use. I don't have anything but good things to say about it. But as you can see here, if you take note, the blue of the hood and the fenders is just a little bit lighter than the blue on the front and windshield cowling. Don't really understand what happened there. Maybe it's got something to do with the fact that I polished everything else out, and I couldn't really polish too much the front because of the shapes of the front end. It's a little hard to get in there. And the Tamiya laid so clear, there wasn't any real need to go in there and wet sand and polish. Same for the windshield frame. So I'm thinking that maybe the polishing had something to do with it, as I really went in there and I really wanted to get this as smooth as I possibly could. So I polished it all the way down, and the paint job did come out beautifully. Now let's talk about all of these little parts. The door handles, these tiny little door handles, the only parts that were already on the car are the small little chrome bits and handles that are on the hood. Those are all metal foiled, but the long molded piece here was a separate part. The door handles were a separate part. These turn signal indicators were separate parts. The rocker panel was a separate part. They're just, I mean, the car was just everything that they could give you to build, they did. Was it a little light in details in some areas? Yes, it was. But for the most part, it was an amazing feat that they had all these tiny little parts. I mean, if you go back and watch, I think it's the last episode or the episode before that, where I'm putting together the sun visors, the parts are so small on that. I mean, you can barely see what they are. Now, after I painted everything, I went over gonna have to go over this one a little bit more, or perhaps a little bit of wax in there. I went over all the panel lines with the Tamiya panel line paint, which really really worked well on this car. I gotta say that on some cars I see it looks a little too dark. On some cars it doesn't seem to look right, but on this car it works really well, and I was very, very happy with the way that came out. Now let's take a look at the rear end of the car. One thing you got to remember, that this car, all these tiny little pieces that you glued on, you can easily knock off. Okay, now we have the back of the car, and you can see that all of those fittings, every single part on there was one separate piece that had to be added, except for the hinges on the trunk lid, as those were molded to the body, and that was just bare metal foil which I applied there. But everything else had to be added to the car, which was interesting. These small little parts, and as you're trying to glue everything to the painted body without doing any damage to the body, trust me, I had quite a few nail biter moments when I was trying to get everything on the body, and got super glue in places I really would rather not have gotten super glue, and things just went horribly wrong and required a lot more polishing. That's one thing you'll have to remember when building this kit. You'll have to handle it a lot. Everything has to be installed. All these parts that you're putting in, you're going to have to handle this kit a lot. So that's going to make installing all of the parts very tricky. As you're going to find, you're going to put fingerprints and glue marks on the body. So make sure you lay a nice heavy layer of clear, so that you have enough to work with, that you can sand it all down and polish it all out several times, because that's exactly what happened to me. But as you see, we have the entire rear is all done. I didn't put any license plates on it. I didn't really plan on doing that, as this is a car meant to symbolize all the Ukrainian people, this build. So I didn't want to limit it to one set of plates. I don't know if that makes any sense to everybody, because I wanted to represent them all, not one person or one specific area. So now that we've taken a look at that, let's take a look at the interior. Now here you can see the whole interior is completely finished. You can see the details that I added, which are those grab handles in the back of behind the front seat, which are on the real car. And I was really surprised that it was a detail that was missed when they created this model. I mean, every single door handle, window crank, everything on there is a separate part in the kit. And yet they kind of forgot to include these straps here, which are, I guess, for the rear seat passengers to hold on to. Considering this car didn't have seat belts, not that I haven't found any anyway. So I fabricated that. That's all in the video. If you want to see how I did that, you can just follow along and watch the episodes and you'll see exactly what I did. Here we have the fully carpeted interior. Had to make a custom gear shift lever as the lever was broken in the kit. Was one of the, I think the only part that I had any issue with on the kit. Everything else was there and everything else was ready to go. And here we have the steering wheel, which is a two-part steering wheel. The first time I've ever seen that. And we're looking at the sun visors here, which are a major undertaking. The mirror, which I put a post on the mirror. It wanted me to glue it directly to the frame, but I didn't think that that looked correct. I might be wrong. It may be attached directly to the frame. But I put a post on it because I just thought that that would look a little better. I like it. I just can't really speak to how accurate that is. And if you look through the windows, you can see the windshield wipers, which were another nightmare as they are such small, thin pieces of plastic. They were very difficult to deal with. So we have the dash body color, that's what I've seen online. We have the tops of the doors body color. And here we see I've added some stainless steel trim to the sills right in front of the convertible top as there was a nasty seam there and it was either fillet, but I thought that this is kind of a cool little luxury touch that I thought would be reminiscent of something they might have done back then. And so I did that. I don't know, I just thought it looked cool. So there we have the entire interior there. All the pedals are individual. They're not molded in, so you actually have to install them into the floor. The steering wheel is done in Tamiya Racing White, which I found is a really, really, really beautiful color, which is very reminiscent of ivory. All the windows are trimmed with Hasegawa foil. This small piece of chrome trim in the back here is an actual separate part, which I don't know why they would choose to do that, but they did, which did not make your life any easier. Alright, let's take a look at the undercarriage. Okay, let me just turn her over so you guys can get a look at the undercarriage, completed and finished. There it is right there. I kind of dirtied it up a little bit just to give it a little more of a realistic appearance. But you can see here how I weathered the transmission. The exhaust has its heat stain defects, as does the fuel tank, which I'm guessing that's the fuel tank. Did all the weathering to the frame itself and to the suspension components. I really, really like the assembled chassis on this car. It really gives it, I mean, it's a really good looking piece just by itself. This chassis looks so nice. You could assemble it. As you can see, it's got the holes in the frame just like the real car. You could assemble the chassis and just display it as a separate kit on its own without putting the body on it. That's how nice it looks. Now let's take a look at the engine compartment, which is where I did a lot more of the custom detail work. And here we have, I took the engine, let's see if we can focus a little better here. There we go. I focus a little bit better. There we go. I did all sorts of wiring and added a hydraulic reservoir, which I saw online that it did have a hydraulic reservoir there. Added a wiring harness for the headlights. The engine is completely wired. There are feed and return lines for the carburetor. I really wanted to just busy the engine compartment up, as it's a beautifully made engine. I mean, when it goes together, just the engine alone is just really nice. But I really wanted to busy it up a little bit. Alright, there we go. Just had to take a break for a second there and go over the engine with my Tamiya anti-static brush. I recommend you guys get these things. This is great for dusting your kits. I mean, because it's a very, very soft bristles, and they take away that static electrical charge which attracts the dust. Basically, you just take it, go over the model, and does a really good job of cleaning everything, and it's very gentle. So now we can look at the engine without all of that dust on it. And you can see all of the wiring harnesses. I went and painted all the fittings with brass, titanium silver. I mean, I did all sorts of detail work to the engine because I really wanted it to stand out and look as real as possible. So I think that, oh, I forgot. One detail I forgot. Right there is supposed to be a throttle cable, and it fell out while I was installing everything. And I forgot to put it back in. So that's going to have to go back to the shop and have a throttle cable installed. So as you can see, it's a really good looking engine. I mean, it just really looks nice under there. I'm still trying to work out how to add magnets to it, so that I can position it with the hood open, and then take it and just drop the hood on it and close the hood and have them be locked in place. Now you would think that the hood would be a problem being two separate parts like this, but it actually is not as bad as you might think. The fit isn't perfect, but if you plan it out right and make sure you get that front end position just right, it does stay very well. You can actually pick the car up and move it around to a point, and for the most part the hood will stay in place, you know, except for now. But in just moving the car gently, the hood will stay in place. So there we have it, guys. There is the Admiral Cabriolet. I see a couple of places where I still got to do a little bit of cleaning up and a few touches, and I forgot to install the red decal there. But other than that, and here we can see the leather effect I did on the brown interior. I had a lot of questions about that, so I try to answer it all in the video where I did all of that. And then I did the exact same effect on the convertible top boot. And there we have it. The Admiral Cabriolet is ready to go on the shelf with the rest of them. Again, I'm extremely happy with the way this build came out. And I hope you guys enjoyed the journey that we took on this together. This really was a build where the journey was more important than the destination. And the car is far from perfect. There are quite a few flaws in it. As I said, I had never built a model of this type. And yeah, I did make quite a few mistakes on it. I tried to rectify them all the best that I could. And I think it came out pretty decent. So overall, I am very pleased with it. And I know that my next build from ICM will go a whole lot smoother and will look just as good, if not better, than this one. Or at least I'm hoping. And as you can see how smooth the paint is, you can see how the light just reflects beautifully off of it. Alright, so that's it for this build. I know I'm going on a bit about it, but I really just like looking at it. This is going to be one of my favorites. At least until the next one. So, guys, I'm going to end this here. I'm going to leave you with a few beauty shots at the end. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this journey as much as I did. And I hope that, you know, you guys, it gave you something to think about as for what's going on over there in that part of the world, and how people are suffering when they really don't need to be. So let's all keep a good thought for what's for the people of the Ukraine, as this is dedicated to them. Alright guys, I'll see you on the next one.